Hello everyone, it is your boy back at it again with another video, and this time we're going to be talking about drag queen story time. Drag queen story time. So what is it? How does it manipulate your children every time you go to it? Uh why is it bad? Everything. Everything. I'm going to talk about drag queen story time. So let's jump right into the video. So what exactly is drag queen story time? Now, these are educational events when drag performers read books to children that aim to present the diversity of gender expression and identity, build acceptance, and develop creativity and personal experience. Now, it seems good on the like in the beginning, but we're gonna see that how bad it gets. So yeah. Also, what exactly is drag? Drag is an art form that has been around for centuries, including during the First World War. Drag has evolved within gay culture, can be performed by all genders, and is generally an exaggeration of gender expression. Oh. So, drag, they dress up as like these crazy, bright, exotic people, usually transgenders, and what they do is that they consider it an art form. Now, it's heavily involved with LGBTQ, and we know that the LGBTQ likes to be very inappropriate around children. And by these pictures, you can see that they're exposing themselves in a more sexual manner. And they're referring it to an art form, saying this is an expression of art. No, 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 no. So we can see here in this picture, we have a girl with red hair, girl with no, man. We have men dressing up as these crazy exotic people, calling it an art form, reading in a library with children. And we can see here it's a child's book, but we can see this man in the back dressing up inappropriately. It's not like too much shoulder, it's very explicit clothing that you want to show off, right? You want to show off your body, but why? Like why are you doing that around children? Why can't you just, wear normal clothes and like read normal books and dress up like a normal person? But it's an art form. It's an art form. But this is not an art form. This is ex- like it should be like exposing yourself to children. Like indecent exposure. Because because you're over sexualizing yourself in front of children and telling people that since I'm part of the LGBTQ, I can dress up like this because I'm expressing my sexuality and it's an art form and just how it is. And I'm over here like, no, you shouldn't be doing this around children. But then it gets worse because it manipulates the books that they're reading children are very manipulative. It gets worse by these statements by certain websites and all these stuff. And the one website claims that none of these classical art forms is inappropriate for children or inherently sexual. Neither is drag. Still, conservative states across the USA are in the process of passing similar anti-drag legislation as Tennessee, which will do nothing but prosecute thousands of LGBTQ plus individuals simply for the act of expressing themselves. Now, these expressions, like I mentioned before, are sexual and inappropriate to be around children. But this, in the beginning of this line, there's nothing inherently sexual or inappropriate to be around children, but you're dressing up inappropriately around children. Like, the evidence, your actions speak louder than your words, right? And your words mean nothing when your actions prove that you're being sexual around children. So you have no business being around children, especially when you're not dressing up appropriately and reading them inappropriate books. But what kind of books are they reading exactly? Now I know you guys like tables, and I like tables too. So I made a table. So 4 books that come right off the top of my head is the Gay BC's alphabet book, celebrating LGBTQ plus identities. Love Makes a Family, Many Kinds of Families in Love. Introducing Teddy, a gentle story about gender and friendship. Stella brings the family diversity and acceptance. So it's not only for educational purposes, but your children are these little sponges and they soak up information. So I do like youth groups and all that stuff, and I can tell you that children listen to what you say, right? And if you're indoctrinating these children into acceptance, then it's not really acceptance, it's manipulation, conversion, and uh, dressing up people as something they're not through manipulation and all this stuff. Now, there is a story that I actually did a video on it called Hypnosis During World War One. Now, hypnosis is this process that you take a PTSD soldier and you tell them in a calmly and informed, like in an authoritative manner, that no, you can lift your arm, no, you can move your leg, and eventually through the process of hypnosis and through calm and authoritative uh, language, you can tell them that they can move their arm and leg, and eventually they will. But if you do the process of this in a calm, authoritative manner to children, you can indoctrinate them into into the LGBTQ community. But on top of that, it's manipulative, destructive, and but it also does a lot of harm to your children, but you don't realize it until it's too late. So this is why I'm here to tell you the numbers and all that stuff. But what exactly are the numbers? Now, depression between the LGBTQ is around 40%, anxiety is around 55%, and suicidal thoughts are 45%. Now, we compare this to the numbers with the Bible, we get a completely different number. And in fact, this study that I'm about to show you, hold on, I have to bring it up. So, this study was done with 2,000 people, 200, no, not 2,000, 200,000 people. And we can read one of the quotes. On days 1 and 2, wasn't much difference, but on day 3, they started noticing a change. Here's the stats of what actually happened when people read the Bible 4 times a week or more. So when you apply the Bible to your life, these numbers happen. Loneliness went down 30%, bitterness went down 43%, anger went down 32%, alcoholism went down 42%, and watching adult content went down 60%. So all these positive changes happen when you apply the Bible to your life and the Word of God to your life. But we have the opposite effect when you apply the LGBTQ mindset and all this stuff to your life. So when you apply the LGBTQ mindset, depression goes up, anxiety goes up, and your thoughts of doing away with yourself go up, and nothing changes. It doesn't help the situation. But with the Bible and the Word of God, everything gets better. Like loneliness, bitterness, anger, alcoholism, adult content, these snares and traps and all this stuff go down when you apply the Bible. So when you bring your children to these drag queen story times, you're setting them up for failure based on these numbers. So if you're wondering why your children have anxiety and depression at such a young age, it is because you're indoctrinating them into groups that actually do nothing to help it. But when you apply the Word of God, it helps. And here's the numbers to prove it. Now, we can see that it's not drag queens are not all for children. It's for a wide variety of people between like children and adult content. And so we can see here a drag performance combines elements of fashion, makeup, dance, lip syncing, music, and comedy. It's important to remember that, like other forms of art, it is available on a wide spectrum, from mature themes at a nightclub to children-friendly performance that would be appropriate for schools, libraries, and community centers. Now, it's no, no. If we have an art performance that you can go to a nightclub and perform, and then you can do the exact same thing at a library, that is the worst thing in the whole wide world. Like, could you imagine going to a library and reading a children's story to children, and then at night going to a nightclub and then performing in front of like grown men and women um in an inappropriate manner? Like, it's like going to youth group, but before going to youth group you got drunk. And you walk into the youth group hungover. Like, then that's not, no. No, it is inappropriate, and based on the numbers and by your actions and by the photos, it is inappropriate to do this around children. And the stories that are being told is inappropriate for children as well. You're saying it's acceptance. I call it indoctrination and manipulation. Why? Because based on the numbers and by the results and all this stuff, and by your own actions, it's inappropriate for your children to be even involved in this. And plus, like I said before, depression, anxiety, and the thoughts of doing away with yourself are present, and they don't get better with acceptance. They get better by applying the word of God. And by the numbers they prove it, and by the numbers they prove this, right? So instead of being manipulated by the LGBTQ, you can take the word of God and look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a fearfully and wonderfully made creature of God, and I'm loved beyond measure. You're loved so much that God came down and died for you on the cross. That's an extreme amount of love. And you want to see the first prophecy of Jesus Christ? You can go to Genesis 3:15. That's the first prophecy of the Messiah right there. And on top of all that, like, we have a loving, caring God and all this stuff, but it gets even worse. So not only is it inappropriate for your children to go to a drag queen story time because it's manipulation, it's deceptive, it's sexual. They also blatantly lie to you, and in fact they indoctrinate your children anyway, and they say they don't indoctrinate your children. And so we can go to this thing, and some children these factors may conflict most commonly with when children do not conform to societal expectation of their assigned sex at birth. This can result in negative emotions and lead to behavioral or mental health issues. These issues are often remedied by gender affirming care if is provided. No, based on the numbers, that actually doesn't happen. What happens is that their depression gets worse, their anxiety gets worse, and the rates of doing away with themselves go up. But when we apply the Bible, everything goes down. So why is it that when we apply the LGBTQ mindset, all this negative stuff goes up, but you say it doesn't? You say it doesn't, but based on the numbers, that is a lie. So not only are you lying to parents, you're lying to children when you do drag queen story time based on the numbers. But I'm not lying to you based on my numbers. These are the results of 200,000 people doing this research. Now, that's just on one research, right? We can listen to millions of testimonies. When you apply the word of God to your life, things get better. Your anxiety goes down. Your depression goes down. Your everything, like alcoholism, your addictions go down. Your mental health gets way better. But when you apply the LGBTQ mindset, everything goes up, which is anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. which needs to be addressed and concerned, and I'm addressing it right now. So based on the numbers and all this stuff, when you send your children to a drag queen storytime event, it's not only inappropriate, it manipulates children and indoctrinates them into something that's worse off for them. And on top of that, they're lying and manipulating your children right in front of your face, and you don't even know it. But it gets it gets worse. Now I have statements from children drag queens, but I'm not gonna show any of their pictures or their names for the respect of them. But we can see here, I used to sneak into the living room when my mom would watch it. That's how I got interested into the drag queens and all that stuff. And then we see another one that says here, it has helped me to be myself. Said 9-year-old a little boy who is from Spain as well. So if you're watching it on television and your children sneak in and watch it and then get indoctrinated, I mean that's just bad parenting. But on plus of that, if you affirm it and don't have the right information, you don't know what your children are going to become in the future. But based on the numbers, we can see that if you apply drag queen and LGBTQ mindsets and ideas, your children get worse between depression, anxiety, and doing away with themselves and all this stuff. But when we apply the word of God, things get better based on the numbers and the millions of testimonies. So, if I can tell you anything, instead of sending your children to a drag queen story time, send your children to like a youth group or an outreach program or anything like that based on the Bible and sound doctrine teachings. So apply the Bible to yourself to understand, proper biblical teachings, but do not send your children to a drag queen story time because it is horrendously bad for them. Not even for mentally, but they spiral. They start spiraling out of control, and you don't know why. It's because they're being manipulated, indoctrinated into a idea that is worse off for them. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. And peace out, players.